The latest round of the Nations Championship has produced plenty of talking points, but perhaps none has been more entertaining than the unique end-of-term school report handed out to every participating nation. Rather than simply ranking performances by wins and losses, the report imagined each country as a student in a classroom, complete with head boys, prefects, exchange students, and even pupils facing detention. While the concept was humorous, the conclusions behind the grades reflected exactly what rugby supporters around the world have witnessed over the opening 3 rounds of the competition. At the very top of the class stood the reigning world champions, the Springboks, who were awarded an outstanding A+ grade after another month of dominance under head coach Rassie Erasmus. South Africa once again showed why they remain the benchmark in international rugby, producing 3 victories from 3 matches while scoring an incredible 130 points and conceding very little in return. Their campaign concluded with a comprehensive shutout victory over Wales, a performance that perfectly summed up the ruthless standards the world champions have established. Even more remarkable than the victories themselves was the manner in which Rassie Erasmus continued to rotate his squad without sacrificing quality. Throughout the tournament, the Springboks fielded 3 different fly halves, 3 different number 8s, and 3 different loosehead props, yet every combination appeared equally comfortable at test level. Few international teams possess the depth required to make such sweeping changes while maintaining the same level of excellence. But South Africa have turned squad rotation into one of their greatest strengths. Every week seemed to introduce another player capable of becoming an international star, reinforcing the belief that the production line established by Rassie Erasmus and his coaching staff has become one of the most effective systems in world rugby. One of the biggest stories to emerge from the championship was the rise of Paul de Villiers, a player who many casual supporters barely knew before the tournament began. Yet within weeks he had transformed himself into one of the breakout performers of the competition, earning praise from fans, pundits, and former internationals alike. His emergence perfectly symbolized the incredible depth currently available to the Springboks, where relatively unknown players can step into the international arena and immediately perform alongside established world champions. That level of squad development has become one of the defining characteristics of the Springboks under Rassie Erasmus, whose willingness to trust new faces has continually strengthened the national side rather than weakening it. While critics occasionally accuse South Africa of playing an overly physical brand of rugby or bullying opponents through sheer power, the latest performances demonstrated that the Springboks now possess far more than brute force. Their attacking structure looked increasingly polished, their kicking game remained among the best in international rugby, their defensive organization continued to frustrate opponents, and perhaps most importantly, every player appeared to understand exactly what their role was regardless of experience. The consistency with which South Africa continued to perform despite constant changes has become almost frightening for rival nations. Instead of relying on a handful of superstars, the Springboks now operate with a squad capable of replacing virtually any player without significantly reducing overall quality. That is precisely why many observers believe South Africa remain overwhelming favorites not only to win the Nations Championship, but also to continue dominating world rugby over the coming years. If the Springboks represented the model student, then the All Blacks were portrayed as the exceptionally talented pupil whose work is brilliant but occasionally untidy. New Zealand earned an impressive A grade after recording 3 victories from 3 matches, continuing their unbeaten run while producing moments of breathtaking attacking rugby. Under new head coach Dave Rennie, the All Blacks have shown encouraging signs that they are beginning to establish a fresh identity without abandoning the traditions that have made them one of rugby's greatest teams. One of the biggest headlines belonged to superstar winger Will Jordan, who continued rewriting the record books by setting a new national try-scoring record. Every time the All Blacks created attacking opportunities, Jordan seemed ready to finish them, once again proving why many consider him among the deadliest finishers in world rugby. Equally encouraging for New Zealand supporters has been the rapid emergence of young fly half Harry Love, whose performances appear to have finally brought an end to one of the country's longest-running selection debates. For years, the question of who should permanently wear the famous number 10 jersey has dominated conversations across New Zealand rugby, but Love's calm decision-making, intelligent game management, and confidence under pressure have convinced many that the future has finally arrived. His performances throughout the championship suggested that Dave Rennie may have discovered the playmaker capable of leading the All Blacks into the next era. Despite finishing the opening 3 rounds unbeaten, New Zealand were not entirely flawless. Their narrow victory over France served as a reminder that even the world's elite teams remain vulnerable when concentration drops. Although the All Blacks ultimately escaped with victory, many observers believed they made life far more difficult than necessary after allowing the match to become unnecessarily tense during the closing stages. Rather than comfortably controlling the contest, New Zealand nearly surrendered their advantage before eventually surviving by the narrowest of margins. It was one of the few occasions during the tournament where the All Blacks appeared vulnerable, and it explains why they narrowly missed out on matching South Africa's perfect A+ rating. Even so, there were numerous positives to celebrate. Veteran captain Ardie Savea once again demonstrated why he remains one of the most respected leaders in international rugby, providing stability and composure whenever younger teammates threatened to lose focus. His influence both on and off the field continues to shape the next generation of All Blacks, ensuring that New Zealand's famous winning culture remains firmly intact despite changes in coaching staff and playing personnel. If South Africa and New Zealand have set the pace, then France have quietly reminded the rugby world that they remain genuine contenders despite facing perhaps the toughest schedule of any nation during the opening month of the championship. Awarded an A- grade, France traveled overseas for every single fixture, yet still managed to win 2 of their 3 matches, suffering only a heartbreaking defeat against the All Blacks by the narrowest of margins. Many teams would have struggled under those circumstances, but Fabien Galthiès's squad continued to demonstrate remarkable resilience and impressive squad depth. Their record-breaking victory in Australia showcased both attacking flair and defensive discipline, while another convincing success in Japan reinforced the growing belief that French rugby has entered one of its strongest eras in modern history. Perhaps most encouraging for France was the emergence of exciting young talents such as Théo Attissogbé and Joël Grandidier-Nkanang, whose performances suggested that another generation of elite players is already waiting to strengthen the national team. Their development ensures that Fabien Galthié will continue enjoying one of the deepest player pools anywhere in world rugby, giving France every reason to believe that even greater success lies ahead. Even powerhouse lock Emmanuel Meafou became part of the humorous school report, jokingly advised to stop leaning on the smaller desks because of his enormous physical presence. Beneath the humor, however, was genuine admiration for a player whose dominance at the set piece and around the field has become increasingly important to France's ambitions. As the championship progresses, both the Springboks and the All Blacks know that France remain one of the few teams capable of challenging them consistently, and although they fell just short this time, their performances proved they are far closer to the top than the single defeat might suggest. The opening month has therefore established a fascinating hierarchy, with South Africa setting the standard, New Zealand keeping relentless pressure on the leaders, and France refusing to fall far behind despite arguably facing the toughest examination of all. Together, these 3 rugby powerhouses have delivered the highest standard of rugby seen during the championship so far, leaving the rest of the competition chasing a level that currently appears extraordinarily difficult to match. Now Part 2. While the 3 highest-graded nations established themselves as the standout performers of the opening month, the next group of teams produced campaigns that were far more difficult to judge, and perhaps no side divided opinion more than England. Awarded a respectable B grade, Steve Borthwick's men experienced what could only be described as one of the most unpredictable tournaments of any nation involved. Their campaign began in the worst possible fashion as they traveled to Ellis Park and were comprehensively outplayed by the reigning world champions, the Springboks. The physical intensity of South Africa, combined with the tactical brilliance of Rassie Erasmus, exposed several weaknesses in England's game, leaving many supporters questioning whether the gap between the 2 nations had actually widened rather than narrowed. Yet what followed over the next 2 weeks completely transformed the conversation. Instead of allowing that defeat to define their tournament, England responded